Flight Boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You know, listen to the Mind of an Aries Moon, Flight Boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now, I want to talk about Chiron, right now, being in 29 motherfucking degrees Pisces. Now, what does this mean? Now, first of all, now, I just put out the video about the flat Earth, flat Earth concepts and shit from an astrological point of view. Now, for the most part, that geared me right into this video right here, because we're dealing with an asteroid right here, which is Chiron, which is slowly but surely becoming a planet of its own. You know what I'm saying? Chiron is stepping this game up. You know, Chiron is out here putting up a good fight and fighting for his position and getting in his position in his rotation and making sure nobody come for his motherfucking spot. So Chiron is becoming motherfucking important right now. Believe that. Now Chiron off the back is dealing with scars, wounds, you know what I'm saying? And what does scars and wounds do? Heal. Now, if your scars and wounds is not healing, then then you got maybe a damaged aspect Chiron, or you may be in a situation in your life where you are avoiding your Chiron energies. Now, Chiron brings healing, but it doesn't necessarily bring healing. This is the misconception that people got of Chiron. See, Chiron is slowly but surely becoming a planet. So when you look at an asteroid like that, that's a rock, a physical rock, but it had gained enough space, mass, and source, and got enough information and attaching a bunch of other shit with it, that now a spirit can actually take that as a being now, and it can actually come into a fucking form of rotation. But for the most part, when you look at an asteroid on that type of travel and gaining that much energy, that's like a rock, sharp shape form, so it's bringing construct. So anytime you get hit right with a rock or something like that, that's a scar, or that hurts, you know what I'm saying? So when you look at it in the spiritual realm and in the astral weather, in the rainbow waters and shit like that, yeah, you could get when you get hit with asteroids, it play out in this life as obstacles and situations and shit like that. But in the astral realm, you may got certain transits where now your weather in the astral realm and your spirit, wind is blowing and shit, and you getting hit with rocks and shit like that. That's asteroids and shit, and that hurts. So when we say Chiron is healing, we need to be careful of that when we get on the spiritual level of talking about asteroids and planets and stars. What really Chiron do is brings hurt. It brings scars. It brings scars and stripes and scrapes. You see what I'm saying? And you have to learn from these scars and scrapes. For an example, it's almost like being born and learning how to walk. Now, you're not going to learn what and what not to do until you stumble and fall a few times once you like 2 or 3 years old. You know what I'm saying? Once you stumble and fall a few times, okay, you start to know how things work. You start to know, like, okay, my knees can't go back like this. My you know what I'm saying? My ankles can't go this way, this, that, and the third. Then you start showing your parents. You start running around the goddamn house, and then they wish your ass was the same age where your ass couldn't walk no more. You know what I'm saying? Because now your ass is in everything in the goddamn house. But at the same time, that's like Chiron. It brings the scars. Now, your ability to develop a situation where you don't stumble and fall and scar yourself anymore, the same way I just made the analogy with the baby learning how to walk from crawling. You learn from that, so you learn how to not stumble and fall. You learn how to walk and run better. Now, the better you learn how to do that, the better you overcome Chiron. But Chiron put these situations in your life so you can learn how to walk instead of crawl. So it brings the scars, it brings the shit, it brings the scrapes, you know what I'm saying, by being an asteroid and gaining that much mass. So it's fast too. So Chiron is coming in people's lives fast, and you're going to start hearing a lot more discussions even from other astrologers about Chiron. I guarantee you, because the frequency vibration of that energy is very, very powerful. It's closer to us now. So we're just going to be getting all kind of information. So the better you know how to, the better you are aware of your Chiron and what sign is in and what house is in and what alignments and what's angling it, the better you're going to know how to walk better and not stumble and fall every time you walk that way. You know what I'm saying? You may have a lot of scrapes and falls, aka being a lot of circumstances and situations in your life where you keep doing the same thing over, and you keep being in hurtful relationships, hurtful situations, and then you're not even correlating that. If you was to look to your Chiron, you'd be like, oh, that's why I keep putting myself in these circumstances and situations. For an example, say you got Chiron and Gemini. a lot of your hurts and scars may come from your relationships or people you communicate with or your friends or things of that nature. For an example, you may place yourself in a lot of situations where you may talk too much, or you may say too much to other people, give off too much information that your other friend didn't want to give off. And every time you do this, you put yourself in hurtful in a circumstance or situation where you get hurt. And it doesn't necessarily have to be physically, but you may lose friends and things of that nature. Then you sit back and you just think of you yourself, because your sun sign may be something totally different. So you're not thinking about Chiron, you're just thinking about your sun, moon, ascendant. So you're not even reaching the issue of why you always going through hurtful shit like that, and not knowing you keep going through those hurts because your Chiron is dealing with your connection and your communication and the way you're communicating with people. So when you learn that your Chiron is in Gemini, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, so let me start being more particular on who I'm communicating with and what I'm saying, so I don't experience these hurts and destruct any more relationships I get into. You see what I'm saying? That's Chiron in a nutshell. So for the most part, we got Chiron motherfucking 29 degrees Pisces. So right here, this is called, as the whole theme, this is spiritual strength. Spiritual strength. We got Pisces, spiritual. We got strength, Aries. So it's on that cusp right there. So it's theme. It's theme. So when we talk about spiritual strength, none of that is really physical. No one can see your spirit, or no one can see your strength unless you was to express it in the physical with your light body, with your light form. You see what I'm saying? But for the most part, if your ass was to be somewhere quiet and just be quiet, right? Nobody know how strong you is. Nobody know how spiritual you is, unless they choose to test you in some way, shape, or form, and then your ass got to show them otherwise. But for the most part, see, this is what we talk about right and left brain. This is why the water and the fire is right brain, and this is why the air and the earth is left brain. But for the most part, let's get into what we're talking about. Chiron being at 29 degrees Pisces is going to bring spiritual strength. So what does this mean? This means that I bet you even feel it right now. Right now, I bet you feel like you can take your spirit, or if you religious, your morality or your moral, or if you're a business savvy person, your structure, or if you're a person who got a lot of success, or a person who got a lot of following, you feel like you can take this stuff and conquer the world with it right now. You utilize that as spirit right now. I bet you even see that as spirit right now. I bet you sit back and feel like, man, I must got some kind of spirit to be attracting this kind of shit. See, that's Chiron being in Pisces, and then right now you're seeing it for what it is, and you're like, okay, boom, I can use this for new incitement, new endeavors. You know what I'm saying? Initiating and creating new things in my life. So this is even Chiron being at 29 degrees Pisces is even making people feel like they can utilize metaphysics, rituals, and shit like that, and utilize it and create new ways of seeing and feeling about things in their external life. And this is what we all in the vibrations of right now. So Chiron is bringing spiritual strength. So utilize your spiritual strength. Don't lack it. And when we talk about, see, we got to get into details of each sign, because before you truly understand steam, which is water and fire coming together. So if you are a cusp sign, this is what you truly need to understand. You're neither fire or water. But before you truly understand how steam works, you got to understand how the fire and the water works on separate ends. Now the water receives, fire gives off. There's an aspect of fire that light can be formed out of. There's an aspect of water that darkness can be created out of. You see what I'm saying? So these are both, so this is correlating to you that these are both things that's dealing with the yin realm, and just the shape and form that you seeing in the yang realm is just the form that is taken, but that's not even really what it is. That's just the representation of it. So when we get to fire, we know fire is vision, but if it's coming from somewhere, this is why fire disappears. Look, boom. Now you be like, where'd it go? Where'd it go? It went back where the fuck it came from, in the yin realm. But for the yin realm has to be expressed. So when you think about the spirit, you can't see the spirit. The spirit ain't something that's in the physical and people can correlate to and point to. No, the spirit is unseen. So when you look at things that's unseen, look, this is why ancients and things of that nature said the fire was correlated to the spirit. Because look, if the fire go nowhere, right? And the fire is just taking the shape and form of something in the yin realm. So boom, when you be like, boom, where did it go? You be like, damn, right? But if it's correlated to the spirit, right? When something from the yin realm do take shape and form in the yang realm, and it represents spirit, what is it doing? It's going up. It's rising. So this is where ancients got the correlation from, that your spirit rises in some magnitude. You see what I'm saying? Because the fire went back to the realm where your spirit at, and with the water at that you don't see, the rainbow water, and in that realm you can't see that realm, but we can know how that goes on when we see representations of things that take shape and form from that realm. So when we look at fire signs, they take what's from the inner realm and express it. So a lot of times what's in the inner realm is inside of you, your feelings and emotions, and you got to give it color. So when you give it color, you giving it a perspective of a person, place, or thing that you see from the external realm. So boom, it becomes a vision. You experiencing your feelings and emotions. It become a vision, an intuition, a psyche, and things of that nature, and you can't wait to express it. The fire inside you, a dragon. We spit motherfucking fire out this motherfucking, because we are a piece of the dragon. You see what I'm saying? Enter the motherfucking dragon. And Bruce Lee tried to tell you, and that's why he said, be like water, my friend. Be like water, because that's the form of fire that's unseen, and that's the vibration of it. This is why water and the ancients correlate that to the soul, because water is like separate. It's the density of the fire. So a fire goes up, but a fire heavy, it sinks and cool off, and that's the water. So it's the soul, an individual spirit separating itself from the spirit. So it's the soul that vibrates. This is why water vibrates. Waves. You see waves, and it's correlated to feelings and emotions and things of that nature. God damn, we going motherfucking in today. So you see what I'm saying? When we talk about this motherfucking water and shit like that, this is how it correlates, and this is how it vibrates. So it's with your soul. It's how your soul, your fire, can sustain itself in a cool place. So it may be perceived as water. So this is why they say water may put out fire, fire may put out water. This and this realm of reality of the shapes and forms that it's taken. But I'm talking about this from an esoteric realm right now, and getting into Chiron and shit. All this is coming from Chiron, y'all. Y'all think this is? Where do you think I got this from? I got this from Chiron being 29 degrees Pisces. Y'all motherfuckers better get into the real news. This is real news. You know what I'm saying? Real news. Not no fake news. So check this out. Now with the motherfucking, you have to understand both energies. So when you diving in the water, that's you understanding your own perception of fire. That's you understanding your own perception of the world that you are in. So you're soaking in your feelings. So when you're in an emotion, you're in that world. So a lot of times we may hold on to certain worlds that we don't want to let go of. The world could be exciting, or the world could be hateful, or that world could be a grudge or something like that. So a water sign to soak in the emotions and things of that nature, and this what allows them to hold grudges or hold certain excitements. But there's so much information in these worlds, in these yin worlds, so you end up becoming psyche, because that world is before the yang world. So this is why water signs end up knowing why a person is acting a certain way or doing certain ways, but they know where that actual energy come from. They know why this person is acting that way. They know this person may be hiding something or something like that, because it's only certain feelings and emotions that a person could go through to, when they express themselves in that manner, they had to go through one of those emotions to even want to express themselves in that way, in a way of looking like they're hiding something, or they got an ego, or acting funny in that type of way. It's only a few water signs understand this. There's only a few worlds you can be in for you to even be expressing yourself like that in the first place. This is why water signs can understand the hidden. And when we say the fire signs like to bring the hidden to the surface. So a lot of times fire signs may prejudge, but the fire signs can see that it's something there, because they can see through you. See, you see through fire. So when you bring water and fire together, once you understand that this will make fire signs intuitive, because they like, okay, if a person is acting in this way, then I see through that. There's only certain characteristics and actions that a person could be seen. They must want to be seen in this way because they're hiding a real source. So a fire sign will spark. It's like electricity. Electricity is really more of a fire than what y'all see in this earth. How the lights and relatives is here, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, yeah, it's like a spark, and a fire sign is trying to spark that out of you. So when you bring these two together, here's where you get a floating spiritual soul or something like that. Steam. You see what I'm saying? But it's not a spiritual soul. I don't want y'all to think that motherfucker when water evaporates, that's motherfucker the spirit or soul, because that don't make any motherfucking sense. Because if that's the case, then what happens to the motherfucking spirit or soul when it turn into snow or when it turn into ice and sleet? So we gonna say a motherfucker somebody's soul fucking froze? That, you know what I'm saying? So you have to understand, this is everything that you see in the physical realm is which is the energy, is like something in the frequency vibration realm, which is the astral realm, but it's not that. It's just a form, and we're trying to create different forms and shapes that we can take that can play the best example of what we truly are, which is the spirit realm. And right now we're doing fourth dimensional shit using the 13 and computers and shit like that. We're trying to create bodies that can do the best shit our spirit is doing. You see what I'm saying? But for the most part, that's getting somewhere else. But when we talk about steam itself, like I said, steam is like that. So that's just a shape or form and representation in the energy in the physical realm, from non-physical to physical. That's all the energy realm. That's how the energy play out with time and experience and shit. That's all the energy realm. This is why earth and the E word and energy and empty, this is why all that is correlated with each other, because the energy world was empty until we put some influences in it as we was rotating that spirits. But that's another video. But for the most part, when you look at steam, steam is a representation of when fire and water comes together, like within you. The shape and form outside of you is when you cooking and you got a pot of water and you cooking some motherfucking hot dogs, you know what I'm saying? You like, say you may be in a fucked up situation, even though I don't give a fuck how good of a situation I ever gonna be in. Sometimes I still get the motherfucking taste of eating some motherfucking beans and chopped up hot dogs, motherfucker. But right now we ain't talking about that. We talking about if you got a motherfucking pot on the stove and you light the fire and then you see the steam. Now steam, you can see through it, is there, you can touch it, you can feel it, aka feeling, right brain, but it's kind of, you can see through it, it's kind of not there, it's kind of not there. So boom, it's like mist or steam and it's rising. So that's dealing with imagination, visions. That's water and intuition and psyche. That's water and fire brought in together. So on my cuss, once you understand that, you'll dive into a whole nother world. Now this is what Chiron is going through right now. This is the realm of reality that Chiron is in. So Chiron is healing us from our imagination and our spirituality. You know what I'm saying? We may have stumbled and fumbled over a whole bunch of damaged spiritualities or religions or things of that nature by the whole travels of Chiron being in motherfucking Pisces. Now we is in the 29 degrees, and right now we didn't got enough scrapes and wounds from what we was clinging on to as far as principles and shit like that. And now we see aka we see the outside, the fire. Now we see what's going to happen and see what we want to express, what we have learned from the wisdom and knowledge of stumbling and falling over what we were spiritually into. And now we want to express it, and we're going to have the strength because it's on the cusp. It's seeing that fire now. So now we want to express the wisdom and knowledge we have spiritually have just went through, the spiritual war we have just went through. You see what I'm saying? And now we are initiating, creating new ways of our spiritual enlightenment that we're going to be pushing out as Chiron, as going into Aries. Now, remind you, it's still Chiron. So this is just where it's at right now. Once it slide its motherfucking monkey ass all the way into Aries, there's going to be some new stumble and falls. And what's going to be that? Prejudging, initiating and creating new ways of seeing and feeling about things. But here's what happens to that. That's always creative. That's always unique. That's always trailblazing. But here's what happens. Lack of relativeness. Not seeing other people's point of views. Being single-minded. Being direct-minded. Going off a cliff. Not being sure if that's a safe fall or not. Now, if it was a safe fall, goddamn, kudos to you. Everybody gonna follow the leader and motherfucking jump off that cliff with you because you did it first and showing it was safe and you got the motherfucking skill. But what if you jumped off the cliff and it was like Mortal Kombat and your ass landed on a bunch of motherfucking spikes and lost all your motherfucking coins like Sonic? See, now your ass prejudged a circumstance situation and you didn't consider anyone else's because Chiron and Aries. You see what I'm saying? So it's initiating and creating new ways of how to see and feel about things. That's all to the good. But when a person too busy with initiating and creating new ways of how to see and feel about things, a lot of times they're not considering other people's ways of seeing and feeling about things. And the spark of when somebody trying to relate to them their way of seeing and feeling about things. Shit can get a little debatable right there. Now, I am an Aries, so I can let you know that. You know what I'm saying? So Chiron is sliding right up. Once it slide in the motherfucking 8, 9, 10 degrees and beyond, motherfucking when it's in Aries, then we're gonna be dealing with those scrapes and falls. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna have to understand that and understand how to be a good leader. You gotta know how to follow also, and that what makes a good leader. And you're gonna be going through those motherfucking scrapes and falls and shit like that. But for the most part, the aspect we in right now is still got the aspect of Pisces, and that's giving us the spiritual, and then we already went through the spiritual scrapes and falls because it's in 29 degrees right now, so we didn't learn from them, and now we're willing to express this on the cusp, and we're gonna have a good time doing it all the way into motherfucking Chiron going to 8, 9, 10 and beyond Aries, and then now we're gonna have to start experiencing these scrapes and motherfucking falls and shit like that. But if you know your Chiron, then you'll be able to see where your Chiron gonna be aspecting today's Chiron, and be able to, you know, jump rope that shit. Be able to jump rope and be like, okay, my Chiron is like this, so if I'm gonna be dealing with this is what's the Chiron at now, and this is what is bringing on to us now. So alright, so if you squaring it, that means you may have to learn from it now. If you opposing it, that means you may have to, you know, jump rope and be an assessment or a crutch at times. If you conjuncting it, you play that part. If you sextiling it, you're gonna see opportunities to for bad or good situations to scrape and fall. And if you're trying it, you're gonna have the gift of either you putting someone else in a situation where they scrape or fall, or you creating a circumstance where you manifest a scrape or fall yourself, for you to just have the gift of learning something. So, you know, trying sextiles, that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. You can have good and bad squares and motherfucking oppositions. It highly depends on what two alignments it is, what two planets or asteroids is aligning each other, and that's gonna decipher if it's good, bad, or neutral or not. But just saying something is a trine or sextile, that doesn't mean it's good. You got to know what two planets is sextile and trine. You see what I'm saying? That's like, for an example, you might have Venus trine and Pluto. You see what I'm saying? That who said that was good? That just means you gotta love and appreciation and a value for secrets or sex or being manipulative. You see what I'm saying? Or you may appreciate transformative situations. So even you may manifest a lot of harsh relationships in your life, and you may be the person who like it. You may act like you don't like it, so you go through harsh situations every day. But the moment you're not in a hateful relationship, you the type of person like, damn, something ain't right about this relationship. This is too good to be true, and cheat on the motherfucker. You one of those and transform that shit just cause you got Venus and Pluto. So you see what I'm saying? Like you gotta correlate with shit. So, you know, yeah, Chiron is in motherfucking 29 degrees Pisces, so everybody got spiritual strength right now, and don't doubt your spirit. Flight bus, bitch, goddamn air.